I'm playing something almost every week, and sometimes I want to talk about it. It's time for a quick hit review, or a vertical slice if you will. So stick with me for some lightning reviews. This week on the chopping block.
This week, I've been playing a lot of Pokemon Unite. It's everyone's favorite cockfighting simulator turned into a MOBA. When you think about it, Pokemon has seen numerous genres. RPG, dungeon crawler, turn-based strategy, on-rail photography, racing games, pet simulators, and even a typing tutor. Now we have a free-to-play MOBA with the assistance of Tencent. I don't really share any love for them, but I'm not going to harp on that for now. Anyway, I haven't had much of a history with MOBAs. I tried League of Legends and Dota at a few points, but they were so mechanically deep with so many characters and such a toxic community that I would never get more than 5 minutes past the tutorials before I join a match and experience a nice, invigorating death threat, so I've mostly stayed away. From the perspective of an individual who has tried to get into them but couldn't because of various hurdles, this seemed like an okay entry point. For the uneducated, a MOBA, or multiplayer online battle arena, has two teams of 3 to 5 players trying to advance into an enemy's territory to either score goals, destroy opponents' assets, or engage in battles to make it so that the other team can't engage in a defense. The specific goals for Pokemon Unite is to start off harvesting various wild Pokemon scattered around the map, gaining experience, and also harvesting points from each Pokemon that's knocked out. You can hold a certain number of points at a time, with the numbers getting bigger as the match goes on. As you level up, you access new moves to make it so you can have different effects in battle. You can become invulnerable for a time and then launch a dive bomb strike. You can set up walls and use attacks that push your opponents away to keep them at a distance, or you can be a defensive wall yourself and bounce enemy attacks from a certain direction. When capable to do so, you then rush to one of your enemy's checkpoints, which in this case are goals, to try and deposit the points you've harvested thus far. Score enough points in all the goals except for the ones closest to the opponent's spawn, and they'll eventually become destroyed, making it necessary for you to move farther into their territory. Throughout the match, larger wild Pokemon will appear, giving significant bonuses and incentives to take them down, such as double capture points or shields and experience for your teammates. Fairly straightforward, but the depth that makes for an engaging experience comes from how you're going to interact with the various characters, or in this case, Pokemon, and trying to formulate a working strategy to make it so you can advance without overextending and losing a battle. Again, fairly standard stuff for a MOBA from what I can tell. Matches consist of standard, ranked, or quick matches on smaller maps. It makes for some fast-hit fun if you can get into it with a decent roster of teammates. But I need to emphasize that your experience is going to be heavily reliant on your teammates. Going into a group that understands when to push, when to retreat, when to offer support, when to flank, and any number of other scenarios will make for a far better and more fun experience than a team of drooling half-wits that charge blindly into battle. Or worse, idols. Given the heavy reliance you would have on an individual teammate, I can say from my brief stint with this game that I'm beginning to understand why MOBA communities are so toxic. With how much people are expected to carry their own weight and how much people are going to suffer at the loss of a single competent team member, I see why people react so adversely to such a scenario. Not that I'm saying that death threats, toxicity, and abuse are justified. I'm just saying I'm beginning to understand the mindset. So, on an individual basis, the biggest recommendation I can have is not to go in alone. Make sure you have at least 1 or 2 other teammates that are going to be able to carry their weight when going into matchmaking. Ideally, have 5 people, including yourself, that can communicate. But that's just the overarching gameplay assessment. There's more to dive into with this being a free-to-play game. And it's worth noting, Pokemon Unite is theoretically totally free-to-play. Initially, with all characters being unlockable over time through just playing and acquiring some of the numerous in-game currencies. There is one premium currency, because of course there is, and the other currencies extend to the various different things that can be purchased. There's other Pokemon characters you can acquire and play as with different playstyles, there's costumes for those respective Pokemon, there's cosmetics for yourself, there's power-up items, and then there's upgrades for the power-up items. However, it's in these upgrades wherein lies the biggest cardinal sin of the free-to-play game: pay-to-win mechanics. These power items can give you a small but nonetheless impactful event on battles, and the way you conduct yourself during a match. For instance, I use a loadout mixture that seems to automatically heal me when I'm not in battle, boosts my special attack, and gives me health back when I hit someone with a special attack. Makes sense, right? Now you get a rather liberal amount of upgrade resources to boost the power-ups. However, if you're willing to drop about $20 on the game, you can break the balance over your knee by thoroughly upgrading any number of items to give yourself a clear mechanical advantage over other players who don't want to sink any money into it. There's also an issue of balance. At the time of writing, there is one Pokemon, Gengar, who through their power-up tree becomes near unstoppable in one-to-one engagements. It would also help if there were individual tutorials for the various Pokemon on how to use them. There are practice arenas, but that only has limited use and the mechanics aren't clearly explained with each character. Now, at the time of writing, I've put in about 20 hours into this game, and I can't say that I haven't had fun at times. However, if pressed for a recommendation, while I was frequently giving it before in the hopes of finding other people to play with, after having sat down, weighing all the factors, and looked up objectively at the game, its mechanics, and several of its surrounding aspects, I ultimately have to say that I would recommend people stay away from this one, especially if you're going in solo. As I said, having competent teammates goes a long way, but I've been primarily just going into random matchmaking, and the level of frustration that I've encountered has unfortunately caused me to start building up a body count of controllers. That, along with the pay-to-win mechanics as mentioned before, and I see this game as ultimately being detrimental for the gaming landscape. Otherwise, if you have friends that you want to play with and you know they can handle themselves in a MOBA, and you and your crew don't mind pay-to-win mechanics, hey, knock yourselves out. Just don't include me anymore.